How can you buy customers for your business? I'm going to run through everything that you need to know to feel more comfortable spending money on ads to buy customers for your business. This is everything that you'll need to know to run through this. What we're going to cover. What do I mean by buying customers and how does that actually work? The most important element that you need to consider when you're doing this, a lot of people don't talk about it. It's massively overlooked, but it is the core of success, in my opinion. Useless metrics to avoid. A lot of people love to talk about them. They're useless. The core metrics for scale and how this works in the real world, which I'll run through with like real world examples. Okay. So let's first off look at what do I mean by buying customers. So essentially, marketing is just a game of testing things, right? You're testing different audiences, you're testing different messages, different offers, all of this sort of stuff. You're pushing it out there and you're waiting for the market to tell you what they like and what they don't like. And obviously you might have insight because you've been working in a market for a while, but you never know 100% what it's going to take until you launch it and see if people will pay for it. And it's just a game of action and result. You take an action, you get a result, you optimize the action based on the result and you improve things, right? Great. Most people like to try and find customers through organic methods. If you imagine this as like a content business, then YouTube channels, social channels, blog, whatever, they'll start producing content on those channels as the action, and then they'll wait to see what that take rate is like from the result, and then they'll use that information to improve their YouTube channel, their social posts, their blog. Simple. The problem with organic is that often this cycle is quite long. If you were to start a brand new YouTube channel today and publish a piece of content today, how long before you have enough of your ideal audience to see that piece of content for you to know whether or not that offer is going to work, whether the offer is correct, whether you're actually getting the right ideal customer to view that thing, whether the messaging that you're using to convey the offer is correct? It's a long time. Let's say this is day 1. This might be day 30 that you've got enough views. So you can run one realistic test on that piece of content in that time frame on that channel. It's hard, right? Better way. You can shorten this drastically in terms of the time by throwing a little bit of money here. If you can throw some money here between the action and to get the result faster, to show this to more people, you'll shorten that cycle of having enough people see it, enough reach, enough sort of impressions, enough action so that you can make a more informed decision. So in that same time period of over here, you could run 4 or 5 different experiments with messaging, with the offer, with the ICP. And when it works, you're essentially paying here to get the result, which is a customer. So that's how you're buying customers. That's why buying customers is often a little easier, especially for earlier stage businesses, to really test what's working with the market quickly. I'm not saying that this is superior to organic. Organic is superior in many ways. Ads, a business that's built specifically on ads only is at risk. Like if anything ever happens, seasonality, whether the offer sorts of collapses, whether the ads themselves stop working, it's all done, finished. Organic can keep your business going. What I like to think is like ads are great for scaling at the beginning and really testing things, but you should be building your organic in the background so that one day you're not so reliant on ads. Perfect. But organic alone, especially for new offers, can be quite difficult to scale. So throw some money in here and you'll get speed of results. And you essentially at this point, you'll be buying customers for your business and you can resell them more stuff later on. That's what I mean by buying customers. You're essentially just paying to get your message out in front of more people to really see what works and find the offer, the audience, and the message that resonates and brings a customer in. $10 in, you get more than $10 back. You've bought a customer. Brilliant. Happy days. Then you build the organic system around it. Simple. It sounds very simple, right? But then how does it actually work? Because a lot of people don't have the money to put into ads here. Oh, how much do I need to spend? $100 a day. I can't afford that. Some people can't afford $10, $20 a day. So how do you actually make sure that you're buying customers and not just spending money to increase reach? And that's the core thing. We want to buy customers because customers give you money back. So the key thing here is to think about the payback period, right? And I'll explain this in terms of paid and organic. So this vertical line here, this is how much money is going out, coming in. This at the crossover point here, this is $0. And this is a timeline, right? So over here is in the past, over there is in the future, in the middle is today. So dead center is today in $0. To acquire a customer, you're always going to have to pay something today. And that might be in terms of ad costs. You're going to be putting $20 into ads today to test a new message. It might be in terms of your time. You're going to spend 3 hours to create a piece of content that could bring in new customers. But 3 hours of your time is worth something financially. If you bill out at $100 an hour, that's $300 worth of your time, right? So you're always going to start off here negative. The payback period is when you can get to this crossover point here, which is when you hit break even again. So I paid $20 here to get a customer. When do I earn $20 back so that I'm not losing money? And then obviously after that point, you start making money. Most big businesses out there, these are all of the big software brands that always talk about how easy it is to do growth through organic marketing and all of this. They can afford to have a very long payback period like this, because they've got things like venture capital funding, they have extremely healthy revenue, so they can afford to pay, even down here somewhere, thousands of dollars. I was speaking to somebody recently and they pay $3,500 to acquire a customer. $3,500, and it takes them about 4 months. So you think that's per customer that's coming through, $3,500, and you don't make that money back for 4 months. If you're doing that at least, just say once a month for easy maths, $14,000 over 4 months is being spent before you're seeing any money come back in. And that's just for one customer. Of course, they're doing this at scale. They're getting more. Can you afford to do that? Most brands can't. Most people can't. Most creators cannot afford to spend such high amounts of cash and wait for such long periods of time to get that money back in. So your job is twofold, really. It is to reduce this, the acquisition or the spend that you're making to get these people in, and to reduce the timeline. You want this to be as short as possible. So you want to be as quickly on this payback period as possible. And obviously the fastest way to do that is to pay for ads. It's very hard. And I know that there are people out there who are like, oh, I know this guy, he started this organic blog and within a month he was doing $10K a month. It does happen. It's very rare though. Usually those guys have got like years and years of expertise and they know how to game the system. For most of us, the fastest way to get this payback period here is to use ads to show the stuff to more people and then really figure out what's going to work, and then pay, once we know what's working, pay to launch that to more people and reduce this. And you might be thinking, that's great. Obviously, I see how the spend here is going to go down, so we're going to be spending more money. But how on earth do we actually get finances to come back in? And a lot of people struggle, and they'll often end up down here somewhere. I should change the color of this. Let's go red. They'll end up down here. They'll spend, but they'll never hit break even. So they're just losing money because they don't understand that really buying customers is about the economics of it all. And I'll show you what they do wrong that stops them from ever hitting this payback break even point and then going up into profit. Fact is, they look at the wrong metrics, right? So a lot of people will talk about, oh, I paid for this ad and it got so many likes, it's got so many impressions, or the reach, it's got really high click-through rate, it's got really good cost per click, really very low cost per click. The cost per lead is great, or they'll even talk about sales generated. All of these can be useful, right? Depending on what the campaign objective is, depending on what problems you're trying to figure out. But when you're just looking at trying to scale your offer, the two most useful metrics are not how many people have seen something, are not how many people have clicked a button, are not how many people have actually bought this. It's these two. CPA, which, if you don't know, is cost per acquisition, how much you pay to actually get a new customer in, and average order value or lifetime value, depending on the model that you've built. I'll explain both. Essentially, for you to have a good offer where you can buy customers at scale, your average order value just needs to be greater than your cost per acquisition. What do I mean by this? I have the $1 product challenge as one of my front end offers. This is $27, right? With upsells and everything, the average order value for this is about $80. $80 is more than what I pay to get one customer, which is about $30. So I'm making $50 profit here, which basically means I've hit that break-even point and I'm up into profit, and it happens quite quickly. My graph for this front end looks like this. Essentially, what I can do then is I can gradually increase the ad spend and continue to acquire new customers and buying customers for my business while making a profit. I don't really care about the profit that I'm making on these front end offers, because this is never going to be like retirement money. What this does is it allows me to identify and add people who are willing to pay for information to my list without me losing money. So I can grow a big list of buyers. And the only things that I really optimize for here are the average order value and the cost per acquisition. If my cost per acquisition is too high, is higher than this, I've got one of two options. I can either try and increase how much people pay me, or I can try and reduce how much I pay to acquire them. And that's where these kind of things come in as secondary. But really, these are the two that you should be looking at. So let's say that these were reversed and it was $30 average order value, $80 CPA. I would look and I'd be like, what's the easiest thing for me to change? I can improve the average order value by adding a new bump offer or a new upsell. Or I can reduce the CPA by having better targeting in my ads. So it's about figuring out which one of these is the easiest to change, and then making it so that your average order value is greater than your CPA. And if you're doing something like I'm going to show you in a second, you can do this on a very short timeline and basically pay today and start generating money from what you're paying today in 1 day, 2 days, 7 days. It depends. It usually takes the ad platforms maybe 5 days to figure out the proper targeting and who you want to be seeing these ads. But once you've got that, you can be paying money today and making money back today as well. So your payback period is very low or very short, and you don't need to wait 4, 5, 6 months to make the money back that you're spending. You just need to make sure average order value better than the CPA. If you're looking at this and thinking, why is sales generated on there? Sales generated is great, but if you generate 5 sales, which equals $500, $100 each, and you spent $1,000, your CPA of $1,000 for 5 customers is higher, than your average order value, $500, and you've lost $500. So the number of sales generated is less important than these. These are the two stats that you really need to be thinking of. How does this look in the real world? We'll go through that in a second, right? This is how we build out the ACA models for people in Growth Models Plus community. There'll be links down below if you want to check those out. And in this model, we're not doing a capture. We'll just talk about this straight away. So we have, say, Facebook ads, right? Facebook ads, you're paying to get your message in front of other people as quickly as possible. And like I said, I'm paying $30 to acquire a new customer here. And thanks to the upsells that I have, I'm getting $80 here. So we're pushing them through to here. And so in my case, this is like a $50 profit just on this. And this isn't including software tools to supply the programs and all of this sort of stuff. This is just $50 profit on the ad spend. It's not minusing all of the costs. So obviously here, this is not going to sustain me and my business unless I hit huge scale, like huge. This is not my retirement money. This part here is where we look at the CPA to AOV. Because what we're trying to do, and by having the upsells here, like I say, it's between $1 and $500 is the purchase cost that they can have. In my model, it's actually $27 to $397. And I end up with an average order value of about 80 in here. It should be going up because I just added on something to make this higher. But this is the cost per acquisition. It's the average order value. If I had months and months of runway, and I know that on average within 6 months, somebody that comes through from these ads is also going to come and buy my mid-tier offer. And let's just say you have a mid-tier offer of $1,000. Then what we might want to look at instead is, rather than the CPA to average order value here, we might want to look longer term at this. And then we're looking at cost per acquisition for lifetime value. Because then this person might have given us $80 here plus $1,000 here. So that means that we can afford to spend more money here to attract that person because we know they're going to spend $1,000 with us, right? So in the first bit where we're looking at average order value, let's just say the average order value is $80. Then we can afford to spend $80 to acquire a customer. In the latter, where we're looking at lifetime value, we might figure out that the person will eventually spend with that business $1,000, which means we don't want to spend up to $1,000 acquiring them because then that leaves us with no profit. But you might then say, so I can spend $250, depending on what margins you're working with and all of the other costs, $250 to that can be your CPA. The difference here, and I'll mention that I prefer by a big margin, I much prefer to focus on getting a positive return here. Much, much shorter payback period. And so I don't have to then think, I hope that this model keeps working for the next 6 months because I just paid $5,000 today. And if everything keeps working, the people that I attracted today should convert into a paying customer within 4 months. If I'm doing that all the time, that's a huge spend for a promise of money potentially down the road. Money gained today is better than potential money tomorrow because everything can go wrong tomorrow. So that's why I prefer to focus on here. And then through things like daily emails or community or whatever it is that your mechanism is to keep people engaged with your brand, that's where I like to push these higher ticket things. This to me is a more sustainable method because the payback period's much shorter and you can feel a bit more comfortable kind of playing with the spend then because those feedback loops that we talked about are much shorter. And this is what I like. I like quick feedback loops. That's not to say that doing the sort of acquiring people here with cost and then trying to optimize for the mid and the high tier options later is not viable. It is completely viable. And I've worked with businesses where that's the model, right? You pay $3,500 to acquire a customer. It's going to take you 4 months to actually close that deal. And that's fine. If you have the runway to spend tens of thousands of dollars per month on ads or more, knowing that you'll recoup that in 2, 3, 4, 5 months. If you have the runway to do it, that's cool. It's just about the way that you're running your business. What I tend to see with a lot of the people that I've consulted over the years is that this, when you're going from paid acquisition to the high tier stuff over here, and it takes months, is generally for more established brands that have healthy revenue because they can afford to sustain themselves in that period where they've paid, but they've not yet got the money back for that payback period, or like venture backed or something where they basically have long runways of cash ready and available. This is much better for the smaller businesses who need faster results, need to test their messaging, really understand what kind of offers are going to be working well, and getting people in the door without losing money. Like I said, I prefer this because what this does is it gets me a list of email people, like it grows an email list of buyers, people I know that are willing to pay for good information and good services and good help. Then I can sell them more stuff and increase the lifetime value. But then this lifetime value stuff over here, for me, this then is straight profit because I've covered my acquisition costs here. Two completely different models. Based still both around the ACCA system, but two completely different financial models and the economics of it for your business. Both are valid, both work. It just depends on you, your business, what you have to work with in terms of the financials and how you want to be running those ads. Essentially as well, your risk tolerance. If you're happy to spend all of that money to maybe see a return in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months and then work on those longer feedback loops, that's cool. Me, I'm not. I like to do things quickly. So this is for me. But that's basically it. And that's how you can buy customers for your business. It all comes down to really understanding the average order value and the cost per acquisition. And you just need to make sure that your average order value is higher than your cost per acquisition. If you can acquire a customer and they pay you more money than you paid to acquire them, you can scale the offer. Obviously, it's not just a case of then smashing loads more money into the ads. There are ways to do that. Talk about them quite often in the Growth Models Plus community, but this is the key. This is what you want to be focused on. AOV, CPA. Everything else then is secondary to help you improve these two things. You look at those and you try and get this payback period as short as possible so that your business can stay alive. You can continue to put money into ads. You continue to attract more customers to your business. That is the long and short of it. But that is like the economics of how to buy customers for your business. It's all about this. If you have any questions, drop a comment. Check out GM Plus community, growthmodels.co/community for more details there, where we run experiments around this kind of stuff. Any other questions? Let me know.